everyone. Welcome back to Iron Bay Research. This is episode 16, and today we were going to do something a little bit differently than usual.
Yeah, today we wanted to take a step back from our usual life story that we've been building up to how Iron Bay Research started, and actually talk about a specific company and the workings of that company. Because that's eventually what we want this to be about, is investing, and how you guys can do it too, because we can do it. If we can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah. So,
but before that, so those of you that aren't very familiar with Iron Bay Research, which is what our channel is based off of, I'll let Bryce explain what Iron Bay Research is. We just started with our life story because we thought that'd be helpful into the history of how we got started into stock investing, because we just wanted to show that we're regular people like everyone else, but we were able to get into it too. So I'll let Bryce talk a little bit about what Iron Bay Research does before we get into that specific company.
Yeah. So like we said, the YouTube portion of the videos kind of came secondary. First started out was I just love doing stock research on the companies, like, Amazon, Walmart, looking at what the company does, why they do it. I find it just absolutely like the most interesting thing to spend your time doing, and I love it. And so that's what Iron Bay Research is. It writes up these condensed reports about, 8 to 10 pages long about a company, why it's a good investment. And then the videos came, and we decided we wanted to talk about our relationship with money and how we got to the stocks itself, but eventually we want to get there, like you were saying.
Yeah, because we feel passionately about this being the way.
Yeah,
it sounds silly, but it's something that when Bryce came about it 7 to 10 years ago, and me, only recently 2 to 3 years ago, I finally decided to start hopping on the bandwagon. It's almost like we found the truth of money, I guess you could say. People think the stock, what's the word? Market, thank you. The stock market is something that's scary and not for the regular person, and you need to have a degree to utilize it. And we just found that isn't true. Anyone can do it. So this is kind of us giving you guys today a little sneak peek into how to talk about a company, what type of stuff to look for, and in the future, what we're going to teach you to look at.
Yeah, so, because I definitely want to, because teaching about it, that could go on forever, but I wanted to show the end product of this all built up into something being able to confidently pick a company.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to do is, Iron Bay Research recently just pitched a stock about 2 months ago, called IES Holdings, and the ticker is IESC, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, about the company, and how the fundamentals of the company and you understanding that leads to, you being able to confidently make an investment as picking a stock when you get down to it. Because at the end of the day, if you have a 401k, retirement, of any which way, if you aren't doing it yourself, you are having someone else do it for you. And there's a lot of debate on whether that's good or bad or not, but the point is, a lot of times the majority of people right now are paying people to do it for them, and they're getting subpar results, and that's causing them to have their retirements destroyed. So without further ado, let's kind of get into the stock itself.
And disclaimer, I do the technical writing for Bryce's reports, and I did the technical writing for this report 2 months ago, apparently, and I don't know anything about it. So I do the technical writing, and then I throw it out of my brain.
I don't know if it's good or bad. We'll let it ride.
I'm going to be asking all of the...
Yeah.
I'm not going to say stupid questions. I'm going to say plain questions.
I think you start
coming from a regular person who does not read accounting sheets or know much about anything. So hopefully you guys can see yourself in me with these questions that I'm asking Bryce. Okay, so what is the name of the company?
Yeah, so the name is IES Holdings. That's the full name. But the stock ticker, like if you were to go online and look up the ticker, the label of the stock, it's 4 letters. It's IESC. So that is the name of the company.
And what do they do?
Yeah, so it's something that everyone has dealt with in their everyday life, and I picked them because it's such a simple and understandable company. But what they do is it's a conglomeration of a whole bunch of industrial companies that work on HVACs, electrical, plumbing. They have some other industrial stuff like sheet metal cutting. But essentially, whenever you see like a truck or a van driving around that has two people inside that come and fix your HVAC system, that's what they do. And I actually found them because where we live in Tampa, there was all these new construction sites, and I kept seeing this company called Bayonet. Um,
Oh.
yeah, I kept seeing their trucks everywhere, and I was like, man,
Every drive ever for the past couple months, Bryce has been pointing out a Bayonet van. So now it's coming together.
Yeah,
I didn't realize they were under. I thought you said you owned Bayonet.
Bayonet and Edmondson. You might have seen them too.
Under IES.
Yeah, so
okay.
So whenever you see, so I kept seeing them everywhere, and we had recently invested in a new builder stock. That's a side story, but I was looking at the financials and just really realizing that, wow, the licensed contractors that do the mechanical work, electrical, plumbing, whatever, they make a lot of money, and it's such a needed skill that's not going anywhere. And I started doing a bit more research into it. I found a local company, and it's still publicly traded, and they're pretty big. I think their market cap was I have it in front of me. It's like $5 billion or so, and market cap means the size of the whole company. So if you were to buy this company outright, you would get dozens of plumbing companies, dozens of electrical companies scattered across the U.S.
And when you say who determines what the market cap is for a company?
Oh, geez, yeah, I totally
hopped
in.
Way too
Sorry.
Before we get to that,
yeah,
this is why I'm here.
Yeah.
Before we get to that, I think it's good to note that Bryce is talking about the backstory of how he got to IESC Holdings. I think really shows that, because I think that would be people's first question, right?
Yeah.
Everyone watching is, how do I even pick a company? Like,
Yeah.
that was my first question. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't even know what would be a good company. And
Yeah.
Bryce has always reassured me that it can be anything in your daily life or something that you like. So I'll give an example. As a woman, for all the ladies watching, if you're really into makeup, maybe there's a brand that is really popular right now.
Or you go shopping, Ulta Beauty.
Yeah, Ulta.
Yeah.
Actually, that is one of the big picks for big investors. It was really popular for a time, Ulta.
Yeah.
So it can be anything like that. You don't need to go
pick some weird esoteric thing that you don't get.
Yeah, exactly.
Like HVAC and plumbing. I work in real estate. I get that.
Yeah, and that's the thing first and foremost is pick something that you will understand just on the surface, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know anything about HVAC, so I would never invest in a company that Bryce is talking about right now because I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's not something that I'm like, oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah.
But Bryce does feel really passionate about it because he's in real estate, so he does get it, and that's cool. Yeah. So anyways.
They're a great company.
Yeah, so you mentioned market cap. That's something... Do you want to get into that now, or you want to get into it later?
I think...
That's just how you judge how massive a company is.
Yeah.
All you're trying to say is it's big, is what you're saying.
Well, no, I was trying to say it's small.
Oh, it's small.
Yeah,
okay.
so let me... I jumped ahead, my bad. Let me pull back to what the company does.
Okay.
So it's a conglomerate of a whole bunch of industrial mechanical companies that's heavily involved in industry. So whenever you see a construction site, home building... You're talking about the U.S. building all these data centers, bringing all this construction back home. They are going to benefit from all of that. And so that's why, when you pick a stock to invest in, it's good to understand it.
Right.
And just for me personally, I really, and that's a very personal thing. Like if you work in a restaurant, you would understand, Chipotle and McDonald's a bit better. If you worked as, software. Like for me, I'm very weak in technology. So someone that worked in software, they might understand like Adobe and PayPal a bit better. But for me, it's just you got to pick what you get as a person. So
and I
just
think
understood
also the company you're talking about specifically and how you got into it has a little bit of a geographical play too, because other people might not live in places that are just like growing insane.
They're heavy in the southeast.
Like for us. Yeah. We see construction left and right everywhere because we live in a place that was like just started to get built up 20 years ago and now it's just like blowing up.
Yeah.
So I don't think other people's experience might not be that. They might
Yeah.
not live around construction or see that,
Yeah,
it's going crazy.
that's a
So
really
that's
good point.
another
Yeah.
reason.
And like my background too is we used to flip houses, and so
Mm-hmm.
me seeing like even on a very minute level of like the actual job that happens here, it's not going to get replaced by AI. Like
Yeah.
you still have to have vents in the power system to push air into a room. That's never going to change
Right.
for the next. It's just not.
It's a simple technology that hasn't been.
Yeah, the best you're gonna do is
advanced.
update the HVAC system, but you still need to have vents. You still need to have water needs to run through
Excuse me.
pipes.
Right.
It's just all these things that are not going to change, and so that led me to look in this company. And when you think about
Right. You were like, this is something that's never going away.
yeah, it's
Ladies just like makeup.
there you go.
Makeup's never gonna go away
Beauty.
unless they
beauty's forever.
unless they figure out a way to peel our layer of skin off our face, which they have.
Yeah,
But
I mean, the filters can only go so far.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but back to IESC, so if you like take it down to a very minute level of why is this a good business. So, take and just an HVAC company being like one place, and again, IESC is a conglomerate, so they own. Like they just bought a company, the one they bought in Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
I think they bought it for like 100 or 200 million, something like that. And what they bought was like the local warehouse for the sort of the stuff, and their fleet of trucks, and then they buy all their contracts, and those get lumped into the company. But let's look at that in a very minute level of why it's a good company. Well, for one, it's hard to do. Like, it's not like painting a house or mowing your lawn where like if it was too expensive, you would just go do it on your
yourself.
own.
Yeah, HVAC is a very niche skill.
HVAC is a very niche skill.
Yeah.
Running electrical is a very niche skill, and plumbing is a very niche skills. So you have this barrier to entry to where it's hard. It's skilled labor. I don't care what it is. It's skilled labor. And the second thing is
as someone who's investing in it or even owns a company like that,
Yeah.
you could be
barriers to
comfortable.
entry.
You could sleep at night to know that I'm just putting it in layman's
Yeah.
terms. To know that your company isn't going to be competed out by everyone just deciding to do HVAC on their own. There's
Yeah.
just like no way that that's going to happen.
Yeah, like you are going to have customers.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things like
Right.
you're gonna if your water's not
Yeah.
working, you're gonna fix your water. Whoever
Yeah.
the economy is strong or good or bad, doesn't matter. You
Yeah.
aren't skipping.
Whereas
that.
like a restaurant in comparison,
You might not go out to eat.
you might be nervous that people aren't gonna like your food or
Yeah.
go out to you, but HVAC it's a necessity. People
Yeah.
need it, and
Well, I
like,
mean,
every house has it.
I mean, you got in Florida here. It's hot. It's unbearably hot in the summer, and some places
Yeah.
it's unbearably cold in the winter.
Right.
You aren't gonna skip that repair. So you have this long streamline of work coming your way. And the second thing is this is getting massive, but this has really been hammering down the past couple of years, is that work that requires licensed people, electrical, HVAC, all those type of things, even like roofing now too. A lot of industries now require licenses, and they are really holding to that. Your job will get held up by county. Your property will be uninsurable if you do not have the proper licenses being done. And that's happening now. You see all these new construction sites. The paperwork and the process to get all that prep and the licensed guys on site is massive. And so you have to, that's another barrier to entry to where someone just can't be, I'm going to go, do my own plumbing tomorrow. It doesn't work the way. You have to go get a license. You have to go do this, do that.
Right.
And so again, if you're doing it the right way, you have this nice barrier to entry, and that enables you to charge a premium. That's why when these people come to your house, they're there for an hour, but hey, here's a bill for $200 plus material.
Right.
You go call someone right now to fix a leaky pipe or to install an outlet, and you tell me what the cost is. I bet you it's not cheap.
Yeah.
And some things you can probably do on your own, but for a lot of things you can't.
And that's the comforting thing about an investor to IESC is that they have all those licensed people under their
Correct, yeah.
their wing. So
Yeah, and they're big too. And so kind of going back into what makes this company like a solid investment is compared to other electrical and HVAC companies, right? Because those are everywhere. Like, why would you go with this company?
without like a mom and pop?
Yeah,
like, why?
it's because they're bigger. They're actually able to bid on the better jobs. I'll give you an example. Imagine that you have a truck and you have 2 employees in your plumbing company, right? You're small, just you. you can't really go bid on a whole neighborhood of houses. So if you ever go by like a big mall being developed or like a big commercial building, or like let's say D.R. Horton is building 20 homes in the stretch, you couldn't go bid in that job because you don't have the manpower to get it done.
Right.
But ISC, when they have these bigger companies, they can go bid on, hey, we'll do 100 houses to go pipe it, or hey, we'll go install 20 HVAC systems in the super,
So they can
30
grow
story.
and get more jobs.
Yeah, and those big jobs are where the money is, and so
Right.
they're able to grab those big jobs and also take the little jobs too. They don't ignore the little jobs,
Right.
but they're able to take all of those.
Right.
And so that's, I mean, put it in perspective here. Sorry, I'm looking at I've got an e-reader that just had like their financials open. To put it in perspective, how much money they make. Bear with me, sorry, I gotta scroll through here.
And what are you looking at?
So, thank you. All companies have financials, and it's you have your revenue, your income statement, your balance sheet, pretty much showing how much money they make, what they're worth. Like the same way if you were to look on your own balance sheet, like how much money do you make, what are your expenses, how much taxes, like what's your take home. Companies do the same thing. They put that in their financials.
And where could you find that? You could find that on the investor relations page.
Yeah. So you can. So if you're publicly traded, you have to have this information out for the public. And so when I look up a company like IESC, I went to their website, and I was able to look at their investor relations page and pull up the financials.
So usually they'll have their investor relations at the top banner or on the very bottom where all the tiny links are. Contact us, yada yada. Usually you'll see something called investor relations there.
Yeah.
And that's where you can find all this
Yeah.
stuff.
And I know right now we're going pretty fast. And we're gonna do a bunch of other episodes too that walk you through like the baby steps of how to do it.
This is
kind of just showing you like how all this culminates into you knowing what to do and how to make money.
right.
Right. So like I was saying, but last year alone, the company made $2.8 billion. Like this is a nationwide company, and of that, their net income was about 220 million. So again, revenue is like all the money they make before they pay out their people, pay the supplies, rent the trucks, blah blah blah.
It was $2-something billion.
It was 2.8 billion, and after all that's said and done, they had net income, like profit, money in their bank after paying taxes and everything, was 220 million.
Wow.
Which is really good.
Yeah.
And so if you were to think about that on a very small scale, if you were just, a person with, 2 employees in a truck, that would be the same as if your company did 2 million in revenue and then took home net income about, 180, 200,000 for you as the owner.
Sure, yeah.
Which is
would
pretty
be good.
reasonable. Like
Yeah.
if you were going to buy that business, that's not cheap by any means. And we can kind of get into our episodes of what cheap means or not, but like that's a good ROI for a business. And so, again, this is across dozens of little companies that they own, and all those companies make money, and all those companies send the money back up to headquarters, and then IESC can go buy more companies, and that's how they're able to grow into this massive company.
Right. And I think as someone who's a beginner like myself, I don't always know all those inner workings, whereas I'm not comfortable looking at the revenue versus net income and what that means to me. I know that it's always a positive sign is the debt, right? I think a lot of people, if you follow Dave Ramsey, the no debt thing, and I think that is something that just people all across society look at in a nutshell as you're successful if you lower your debt or have no debt. That person's successful.
Yeah.
And I think that translates into companies too. So if you look at a company and you don't look at anything else first, you look at their debt, maybe that can keep you researching more into them if they have like no debt. So what's IESC's deal with their debt?
Yeah, so no, you're absolutely right. I mean, just companies, like when in doubt, like think about your life.
Right.
Let's say you make 100,000, and after all of that, your profits, you have 10, 20 grand extra left the year to go do whatever. And if you had 50 grand in debt with payments of 500 a month, whatever, I'm pulling numbers out of thin air, that's sustainable, right?
Right.
But if it was 500,000 in debt and you had payments of $5,000 a month, that's not sustainable.
Right, for
and,
the average person.
Yeah,
absolutely
and just
not.
like that concept, most people get, you look at your own life financial, companies have that same thing too. And so
Right.
companies, they can borrow that, have no debt. But you're able to see all that in their financials. And that's what kind of drew me to IESC, because they have very low debt. And so I'm reading up the sheet right here on their balance sheet, and a balance sheet shows your assets, your liabilities, and your equity.
And this is from 2024.
Yeah,
Okay.
and pretty much like the accounting equation is your assets, what you control and own, equal. Oh, sorry, the stuff that you own equal what you own and what you owe. So for I have this example. Let's say you own a house for $400,000, and you owe $200,000 on it, and then of the $200,000, and then that means you also have $200,000 of equity on the house. So your assets is the $400,000 house, your liability is the $200,000 mortgage, and then your equity is the $200,000 like the amount that you own in the home. And companies did the same thing. So if IESC, their assets was like $1.2 billion, their liability was just under $600 million, and then their equity was $600 million.
Wow.
Which I know that might not mean anything to you, but the point is.
Well, I think it's easy to see how much less 600 million is than 1.9 billion.
Yeah, well, it shows too when you go back to the net income, they could pay off their debt very quickly. I mean, so a way to look at it is, it's not only they owe $200 million, but on top of that too is they also have a lot of money in the bank. They have $100 million in the bank. So if you want to look at it theoretically, if you owe someone, let's say I owe someone $600 million, I make $200 million a year, and I also have $100 million cash in the bank. That's pretty sustainable. It's pretty well protected. So I mean, so you always look at it in the case of like, if this company, if their revenue and sales decline, could they survive? Could they manage that debt? Because you want to go bankrupt one way, by owing someone money.
And you think with that they could?
Oh, 100%.
How long would it take them to pay off their debt? I mean, they could pay it off with that, right?
Oh, I mean,
they
could be debt free in like 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Which is very, like, if you think about the average person's life, we say you have a car note, a house, whatever, some credit card debt. If you could say, I could be debt free in 2 years, that's a good situation to be like, okay, that's actually really reasonable.
When do you start getting concerned with the company's debt? Like if, based on that concept of how many years they could pay it off, when would you be like, eesh?
That's such a what if question, because that in itself is like a 2-hour discussion, to be honest. But it depends, right? So some companies look at that differently. I'll give an example, like a real estate company, like someone that had a bunch of houses that they rent out. They have the assets and their customer are pretty regular, so they can handle debt a bit better. Whereas a company that is very cyclical or very like quick to expand, like a tech company or restaurant, they can't handle debt as much because it's not a sure thing.
Right.
So that really matters. But overall, if you don't know, like let's say you're unsure of how this whole damn thing works, which is there's a lot to take in.
Right.
The less debt, the better. And there is no rule of thumb. There's no
sure.
There's no perfect ratio, because I think when you do that, you get bogged down.
Right.
But just understand
Can you slowly take us through that though? Like you keep giving examples. Can you slowly take us through the exact equation and debt that you just talked about there on their financials?
Yeah. Okay. So we'll go back to like the net income, right? So you have $220 million, and net income is revenue after all your expenses. So after everything's paid and done, they made $2.8 billion, paid everyone off. They've got $220 million left.
Okay.
With that, they can go buy more companies. Right. They can pay off the debt. So that's what they make every year.
Right.
Right. So you have that. That's one aspect of how you can manage your debt. And the second aspect is how much debt you have. Right. So in this one, they said they owe
600 million.
Yeah, it was 600 million. So they owe 600 million, but within that, there's another component as well of they owe 600 million, but they also have $100 million cash. So when you look at it's called net debt. So
Yeah.
you take your debt minus your cash and some other stuff too, but
Yeah,
we'll keep it easy.
Okay.
And so really they only like owe 500.
Okay.
And for anyone that's watching that is like a professional, like we're really drifting through these facts. We can go more in depth later, but that's what it means in a nutshell of net debt. You
This
take
is just an intro to what we eventually go in depth into.
Exactly. So in this situation, they owe 600.
Right.
They have 100 million cash, but if you paid that off, they really only owe 500 million.
Okay.
So that's what you're looking at. 500 million of what they owe versus their yearly net income of 220.
Okay.
And you look at that, and then and that's a very just. And this is where the rubber meets the road. You have to think, as a company, an HVAC plumbing company, conglomerate, whatever you want to call it, is that sustainable? I think so. I think so that their revenue of 220 million, their net income of 220 million is going to be repeatable next year, because those customers aren't going anywhere. Right? Where people get in trouble with debt is they have a company that's going to go out of business soon. Let's say Blockbuster. Blockbuster had a lot of real estate because all the leases, and they were losing market share to Netflix. So that was an example of holy shit, their sales are going down. They couldn't cover the debt. Or take all these retail companies that went bankrupt this year. God, I did a whole video on these ones. I forgot who. But just like the mall retail stores.
I don't understand what you're getting at though. How could you foresee that? Like, where's your Blockbuster example?
That's the golden question. Is you like that's where rubber meets the road. Is you have to like think through and be like, will this sustain? Okay, a big one that just went bankrupt was
based
Big Lots.
on what the company does, their fundamentals. I see what you mean.
Big Lots. Big Lots just went bankrupt.
Yeah.
So Big Lots, you might have seen them. They're kind of like a Kmart, Walmart type deal.
Right.
But their parking lots were empty. They owed a shit ton of money, and their sales were declining. If you take a step back and think about it, if your debt is increasing and your sales are declining, that's just a recipe to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Just like
so not only do the financials need to support the business, the success of it, but you as a person need to believe in the success of this business and what they do. Yeah. That's tricky.
You have to analyze, is this company durable? Does it have a future? Right. And this is where it all just comes back into what I get. You know, like, are people going to stop wanting electricity? No. Are people going to stop wanting running water? No. Are people going to stop wanting controlled air in their life? No. And then go into each of those categories. Is there a replacement coming soon? No. You still have to call people. Like, to get it done. Like that's never going to change. I would say it's even increasing more because if you look at, like, the science of HVAC systems is, I'll put it this way, majority of your electrical costs and power costs come through heating and controlling the air in your home. That's a massive expense. So people that want to come fix their house, they want to keep that thing running, they want to maintain it, clean it out, and so it's just there's so much money that comes with it. Like, hey, this business isn't going anywhere.
And just to stop you there really quick and chime in about what Iron Bay does and the stock recommendations that you make as the researcher is, I don't know anything about HVAC. But in reading Bryce's report, saying everything you just said, selling me on the simplicity of HVAC and how it will never go away, you've kind of sold me on it. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's the benefit to Iron Bay Research is not only are you thorough in describing why something's a good business in your reports, but I think you also do a really good job, like you just did, with selling us on HVAC and why it should sustain into the future. It's such a simple concept, but not something I would think about because I'm not in that world. But now that we're talking about it, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just like, argue with me, but it's not going to go there. And that's all
I change the temperature on my AC every 2 seconds in the day.
Exactly, because you
I can't imagine not being able to do that. Because you want
it to be perfect.
I want to be comfortable,
And it's one of those businesses, and that's all stock investing is. You have to find a good, durable business with good financials.
Right, and when you're a person, just to harp on the HVAC thing one more time, when you're a person budgeting and you're having to cut things out, no one looks at their HVAC and goes, oh, we're gonna have to. That's like the last thing you would do. We're gonna have to keep the heat off or the AC on.
Funny enough, we just dealt with this.
Yeah.
So we tried to save money because we have an upstairs. It's just funny shit. I feel like this.
Oh, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So this kicked our ass. So we have an upstairs. So our house has 3 different AC units. And we have one to the upstairs.
Because our whole downstairs is one level.
And then we have a loft.
And then we just have a loft.
Yeah.
So the loft.
And so we tried to save money. We turned off the AC in the loft to save money, and it ended up just causing fungal growth.
Yeah, we got mold in our HVAC system because
because it wasn't running.
Because we wanted to save an extra $100 a month.
What did we spend to get that shit cleaned out? It was like $1,500.
We ended up spending about $2,000 to remediate the mold issue that we caused because we're cheap.
So the point being is, if you live in anywhere that's like not perfectly temperate,
like
anywhere that's too hot,
you're gonna need HVAC.
Like,
and
it's got to keep going too.
And it's the last thing to go in people's budget.
Yeah, and going back to like the insurance, this is a
That's
big.
funny.
And I feel like a lot of real estate agents would get this part too. Is right now, whenever you buy and sell a home, to get insurance, you have to have all those things working.
Right.
Your HVAC, your electricals, your plumbing, and to get those fixed, if they aren't fixed by licensed people,
you can't sell.
Guess whose insurance doesn't count? I'll give you an example. If you buy a house and you put a brand new roof on it and your insurance is perfect, coverage, blah blah blah, low premium, and then 2 years later, I'll use an example for this company. I don't know why I said roof. Roofing's just kind of easy.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say you get a house and you put a brand new electrical panel in, and you want to have functioning whatever, and you also put a brand new HVAC system in your house, and your insurance is great, blah blah blah. 2 years later, a fire breaks out in your house, which is electrical fires, pretty common. Well, not common, but common of ways of house fire starting.
Right.
If they find out that it wasn't a licensed person that did that, guess whose insurance isn't kicking in? Yours.
Right.
And so that's why all these things are very expensive, because these companies also have to have insurance.
Liability.
And that's I thought to bring up too. Going back to this company is able to have better costs. Yeah, let me just do a little step back. There's so much to go over how good this company is.
Yeah.
So
let's wrap it up there then. So talk about, just give your last example. Talk about the pricing, and then we'll go from there.
So I want to go back and do some more things about why like scale is important. It might not seem
scale
as in
like
a bigger
large
company being better,
right? Okay.
And it might seem counterintuitive, but it'll make sense from like from the business owner side.
Okay.
And then I kind of want to go into like a little bit about why it's a good price, like a good purchase at the stock that we recommend, at the price we recommend.
Okay.
So think about, again, back to the example. You're a small business owner, you have a plumbing company, you've got two employees, whatever. But think about everything else: your website management, your HR, your retirement packages, your insurance that you have to buy, your training for your employees, storing your equipment, blah, 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 scheduling your stuff. Well, what this company does is by buying these companies that are expanding, so instead of having like one truck company, they'll have like a warehouse and they'll have like 20 or 30 trucks. They're able to do something called economies of scale, where those 30 trucks are able to have like one admin person, and one HR person, and one scheduler to work for all the actual technicians. And that actually helps lower their expenses when you compare what they're doing to like a one person, a one truck company. And so by those economies of scale, it's actually they're actually able to keep their costs down, go for bigger jobs. I mean, just everything going on it's just there's not a lot of competitors fighting IESC on this size, and so they have a lot of benefits that go with that as well.
Sure, interesting. Okay,
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
that's not something. I'm just referring to myself as a regular person.
Yeah,
that's not something I would think about, but you bringing it up makes sense.
Yeah, well, it's just like economies of scale. It makes everything easier. Going back to the example of bidding for bigger jobs. Mm-hmm. Imagine if a small truck company, I had to go fix someone's pipe.
Right.
And then I have to go drive 20 minutes downtown to go fix someone's toilet.
Right.
And then I gotta go drive an hour over here to go bid on a job that I might not even get.
Yeah.
And then I gotta go drive an hour over here to go, lay some pipe or whatever, or go fix somebody's leaky shower. When I'm able to bid on big jobs, take a residential development of D.R. Horton or Lennar, where they have 20 houses, they just go from one house to the next without even having to leave their truck. And so they're able to get these just less downtime, able to get bigger jobs.
Right.
And it's such an easy concept of something like, why would I put my money there when I could put my money in NVIDIA or Tesla or all these other high and fly things? Sometimes stock investing can be just, you see something that makes sense and say, hey,
it's simple. Yeah.
I don't want to spend $100,000 to start, or $200,000 to open up my own plumbing company. I don't want to go get a small business loan and buy one for $2 million with other customers. Instead, I want to go put $10,000 and go buy some stock of IESC. Yeah. And then boom, you become an owner of this company. Like that's what investing is. And by buying the stock as a stockholder, you're owed a proportion of that $220 million.
Right.
I think that's what you buy as a stockholder. You own it's a small part. I get that, but it's still a piece of a company.
Ooh, okay, yeah, I didn't realize. Did you want to just talk about that really quick before you talk about the IESC pricing? Is how we'll get to that in our story when we continue our life story leading up to stock investing. Yeah. But that's one of the things we kind of kick ourselves about and hope that we can help other people realize that if you want to step away from your job and own your own business, you can own a portion of a business while you continue working and eventually step away, by making the right investments. Like, for example, when we did house flipping, since you brought that up already, if we would have just invested in
D.R. Horton or
a massive new build contractor 10 years ago rather than flipping,
we would be rolling it up.
Yeah.
That's actually what we were going to talk about on the next episode. Instead of looking at a company to buy, like a franchise, try to look at the publicly traded version.
Yeah, because we had even looked into like starting Domino's, starting Tropical Smoothie.
I want to say that's a good comment.
We're going to save that. Okay.
Later. But,
but anyways, we just realized that we can own a company.
Yeah.
We'll just buy the stock and we don't have to do any work.
Yeah. So we talked about the dirt, and I keep harping on like the plumbing, electrical, and HVAC stuff. They do a lot. Like they work on transmission lines. They build data centers. They do like sheet metal cutting. They have a bunch of these niche industrials that help like prep construction site. They do have a lot of these niche things that have the same concepts of they're not going to get replaced by technology. You still need to be on site. You still have the license.
Yeah.
But they're very geographically constrained. So what I mean by that is,
like, there still needs to be the basic technology to support all this fancy new technology. HVAC can't, people think of like the cloud versus physical servers, but the cloud still has physical servers. They're just fancier.
Yeah, and guess what? They need power run.
They need HVAC
run
to cool them down.
And then guess what? The house where you're inputting into the cloud.
We're just not. It's like physical things aren't ever going to become invisible by technology.
Yeah.
You're still going to need the basic technologies to support advanced technology.
I think the connections are getting better. Like you have Wi-Fi, so they're getting rid of that middle space, but you still have this end piece, the data center, or whatever,
that needs to be
and you still have the transmission lines, all this stuff. There's still this massive part that people just don't think about, and it's kind of fucking annoying because you're like, oh, we don't need that. Like, you're stupid.
Yeah.
People. Sorry, not that you're stupid, but it's like. Not calling people you're stupid if you just never thought about it, but people that are denying that like these jobs are going to leave. Like that's absolutely insane. That's the most like ludicrous statement ever.
Yeah. Sure.
Like, anyways, I digress. But going back to what we talked about, so it's a strong, durable company. They have really good financials, and then never a good thing we like to look at for Iron Bay research is we like to look at management and see like, hey, are they aligned? Do they know what they're doing? Are they doing dumb stuff? Because again, when you buy a stock, technically the CEO, the CFO, all the people, they work for you now. Yes, before you get to, it's a small portion. Yes, it's a small portion. But legally, you own the company and they work for you. yes, you don't get a say because you own 1%
Point zero
of
zero
1% of 1%.
Yeah.
But if you bought enough of it, I mean, Jeff Bezos only owns 10% of Amazon. Like, that's it. And he owns a shit ton of shares. Like, he doesn't own 100%. He owns 10%. Mark Zuckerberg, I think he owns 7 or 12. The point is, though, it's just accumulation of a lot of shares.
Right.
It starts from something. So, back to management with IES, their CEO, Jeffrey Gandel, he's this gets a little bit confusing. I don't want to lose people here, but IES, there's another company. I forgot what it's called. It's in the report that we did on Ironberry Research. So you can see the full report. But he owns another
Which
company.
you would go to ironbayresearch.com.
Yeah, it's called like Toutine. I can't know how to pronounce it. Like Toutine or Toutine, Toutine. But the point is, he and his brother own majority share of this company, and this company owns majority share of IES. Long story short, the CEO owns a massive amount of the company, and a lot of his wealth is tied to the company. What does it mean for you? It means that you want to be in the same boat as someone.
He's motivated for the success.
He's
of
motivated
the
by this stock going up
Yeah.
because he gets rich as shit by doing it, which is good. That's fine. If they get rich, I get rich too. What you don't want is someone that has like no stake in the game, like a CEO that maybe has like no stock ownership, and maybe like it's a tech company and they came from like an automobile company. I don't know. I'm pulling a bad example. You want to make sure that they know what they're doing.
That they're tied.
Yeah, and so CEO management is very aligned here. I like that story, and like if you look at the track history, everything they've been doing, the acquisitions have been driving the stock price up, and it's been making them very wealthy. But hey, if I'm here, I'm getting wealthy too.
Sure.
I'm totally cool with that.
I mean, that'd be. I mean, you wouldn't want to do that in any world if someone was like, "Hey, come join this soccer team with me," and you're like, "Yeah, you're part of the deal, so I want to be on the soccer team with you."
Yeah.
And then they bounced right when you got to the soccer team. You'd be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
At this point, you're saying he's not. If he bounces and the stock craters, he is losing a lot.
Yeah, so that's probably not going to happen because he's invested in it.
And anything can't. So I'm not saying it's impossible.
Yeah, sure.
You want to like.
It helps though.
You want to, wager your bets and make sure like, hey, there's a good chance. Like it's like Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do anything that would permanently destroy a company because his net worth is tied to it.
Right.
And people make mistakes here and there, which is bound to happen. Companies do that.
Yeah.
That's a whole other conversation too. But you want to make sure that they're like aligned in the right way.
Right.
So I kind of want to drive towards what we lured the stock at, why we and how that kind of goes. Cool.
And let's end on that.
Yeah.
That
so
sounds good.
At Iron Bay Research, what we do is we write into reports, but we do 3 important things. We tell you what stock to buy, ISC. Mm-hmm. We tell you at what price to buy it, and then we tell you when to sell it.
And we tell you why. And the cool thing about that is, like we said in the beginning of this video, how do you even know what company to pick? Well, if you follow Iron Bay Research, it helps you.
I think right now we have like 14 recommendations, and you can just pick like, let's say at 14, you get 5 of them. Well, then do 5. Like whatever.
Yeah. If there's a company that is pitched through Iron Bay that you don't really understand, you don't have to invest in it.
Like let's say
but there will be others that you do.
If you live in the woods and you hate air conditioning and running water, maybe not for you. Whatever. It's your choice. The point is, it's meant for you. There are thousands of publicly traded stocks. Our job here is to filter them out to some of the best choices to give you a better chance of just investing correctly. Because there are a lot of companies that just suck. No reason to be publicly traded, and you will lose your money if you're just throwing money out the window.
Yeah, sure. Because someone said it was cool.
Yeah, so what we'd like to do is explain why. Like why, how did we get there? It's not just a quick little, I like this because HVAC's important. Yeah, that's where we started, but we're getting into...
the glare of the sun on Bryce's watch is blinding my face. Move your sorry.
But like I said, so, Iron Bay does what stock to buy, when to buy it, and that relates to the price, and when to sell it.
Yep.
So we alerted this stock about 2 months ago, and when the stock was at $212, and on the report we said, it's a good buy if you're able to buy it under $220. Because at that time frame, going back to the balance sheet, I know people hold on to your hats. Some people get bored with this stuff. I like this stuff.
Which is why just subscribe to Iron Bay so you don't have to do it.
You don't have to read. Yeah, these are like 100 pages long. I can read these all day long.
Yeah, Bryce will do it for you.
But going back, so shares were trading at $212, and going back to the concept of if you buy a share, you own a small piece of the company.
Right. Okay.
Well, each share was getting about $10 in earnings, give or take. So what I mean by that is if you bought a share for $212 of that price, you were getting $10 in earnings back every year, and then plus the stock and revenue and everything was growing. Like their sales were growing, they were buying more stuff.
So if you buy multiple shares, that's how much.
Yeah, but I mean this too is that $10 next year could be 15, could be 20. Like
right, okay.
It just you're looking at the future. Like stock's gonna grow, gonna make money that way.
Right. Okay.
So right now, go ahead.
I see earnings per share all the time, and it's funny. You just explaining that it just clicked randomly.
Yeah, it's called earnings per share, and I like that because it's kind of hard to grasp 2.8 billion, 220 net earnings.
Yeah,
I buy a share for 220. What the hell does that make? What the hell does that give me?
Yeah.
But EPS is just if you buy this stock.
EPS is earnings per share.
Yeah, if you buy the stock at 212 at this time, you're getting the EPS, and that was about $10.
Right.
Again, that's not exact, but just we're ballpark. We're doing napkin math here, guys. And so right now, this stock has gone up about 25% to $260. So I know hindsight 2020, that was a good pick, but at the time, like all the math made sense. And this is only a 2-month investment, guys. So if you're looking at that, anyone that wants to break that math out, that's really good. I'm not saying that every stock you pick goes up 20% in 2 months.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, if we did that, you wouldn't be seeing us, and we'd be having a castle somewhere.
Yeah.
But the point is just like keeping it simple, going at something that has good financials, a good business, doesn't have risk of permanent bankruptcy, all this good stuff that makes a business.
Right.
It can lead to a good stock because fundamentals, like business fundamentals, good business fundamentals eventually lead to a good stock price. It might take a year, it might take 5 years,
right.
But eventually they connect.
Right.
And so that's just how we do it at Iron Bay Research. We don't sit there and try to, do charts and every type of investing. We don't do technicals. We don't do that. We look at just business fundamentals. Does this business make sense? Does it make money? Does it have a future? Is it something that I want to put my own money in? And everything that we pitch in Iron Bay, we invest in heavily. Like I'm not just throwing darts on the board and saying, hey, fuck it. No, we have skin in the game too. Right. Just because I think it's nonsense for me to pitch. We're not going to be here like Jim Cramer and pitch 10 stocks a day and not put money into it. We put money in these things too to be aligned. That's our way of alignment is do good, hard, diligent research, put our own money into it as well as along with the readers as well. So this one's done really well. I still like it. But again, to reiterate, on that report we said buying it under 220 is a better investment. And why that matters is because the higher the stock price goes, you're paying more for something than what might be prudent. And so I'm not saying at 260 it's a bad investment. I'm just saying that at under 220 it was a better investment.
Yeah.
And so right now
you get more return.
Yeah, and so that's really a thing is the price you pay is wildly important. So what I mean by that is if someone were to invest in today versus someone investing in it 2 months ago, whenever we pitched it, their returns are going to be wildly different. And I know this is 2 months. Like, well, why the hell didn't you guys do this video 2 months later? We just weren't ready for it. But from here on out, we're going to try our best to do videos on a more timely manner so that you can invest along with us.
Yeah.
This is more of just letting you know how we look at it. And again, too, stocks go up and down all the time. If IES gets back under 220 for whatever, or has like the stock pulls back, which it recently did, I think going back down to like 230 or something like that, that'd be a good time to buy some stock.
Yeah.
But the point is, the price you pay is wildly important. We're not just telling you to go buy IES any price. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, price is important.
Sure.
Price is important. On top of our reports, it says recommended buy price under a certain amount. Like that is just so pivotal.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
No, that's okay. Are you? Do you feel good in wrapping this up? Because I have one more question I'd like to ask you.
Sure. Shoot. Yeah. No, shoot. I mean, I could talk about this company forever.
Yeah.
I like. Yeah. It's cool.
Was there anything else that you'd like to say about the company before we digress onto something more all encompassing?
We talked about, the business fundamentals and why, economy scales are better. There's a lot of other nitty gritty stuff, but that's going to be a bit more advanced, and I don't want to kind of get lost in the weeds.
No, for sure.
But a lot of it's in the report. But,
So I was gonna say, something is, to wrap this episode up. Why do you think it's important that people, that we take control of our own money? And like, why do I need to be doing this? Why does this matter to me?
Yeah. Okay.
And why should it matter to me?
It's a long-winded question. So
no, just talk about the future of retirements.
Yeah.
And,
so here, I'll tag it.
The stigma on financial advisors these days.
Yeah. Okay. So there's really two buckets. It's people that control the finance and people that don't, right? And so, for starters, I mean, I always kind of jokingly say this tongue in cheek, and I hate that saying, but I think it matters, is look at all the old people around you and look at how many of them have no fucking retirement, are going back to work, have nothing, are financially destitute. I bet you that number is more than those that are financially well off. Like it's over.
Sure.
It has to be over 50%.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And of those that are financially well off, really think, is that the retirement that you want? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they may be, like, secure.
And when did they come about that retirement? Did they just retire when they were 80? Or were they able to retire when they were 50?
So it's just like the proof is in the pudding that if you do not do it, you're screwed. There's so much research on that. Like, if you don't take care of it, you're in trouble. And so, going back to the first question, though, there are those that handle it and those that don't. So, if you don't handle it, you're in trouble. And if you do handle it, there's a couple options you have.
Can you be specific so if we cut this, we can actually use it? You keep saying it.
Oh, yeah. So if those that do handle their finances and take the steps and say, hey, if I want to retire by 60, I need to have $3 million. To have $3 million, I need to invest as much amount. So people that do want to handle their finances, they have two options. They can handle it themselves by investing or opening up a business, picking their own stocks, investing in real estate, whatever the hell you want to do. Or there are people that take all their money, and this is the majority of people that take their money and hand it off to a financial advisor or just invest into a fund one way or another, right? And so a lot of people hand it off to someone else. But if you look at the research, is when you hand your money to someone else, where someone else is the custodian of your money, between them charging fees, between them mismanaging your money, there is a high percent chance that you're going to lose a lot more of your money, even if they do well, just by them charging you fees over 30, 40, 50 years of your life.
Right, because even if they do well, they're taking that money that you made and then doing well
I forgot
just to pay them.
I forgot what the math was. So I wasn't ready for this question, but it's like if someone charges you like a 1% fee, which is very common for like a financial advisor, if they charge you a 1% fee over like a 30, 40 year period, and you have a stockpile of money, if you compare it to if they didn't charge you that 1% fee, it's like they end up taking like, I was like 2/3. So let's say you would have ended up with $3 million.
That's wild.
They would have ended up with $2 million. And that seems ludicrous. But the difference of is just when you're constantly paying some of that 1% in time, it just it obliterates what's happening to your money. Because the money up front, just the time value of money, all that good stuff.
And that should make you mad. Because
it should make you furious.
This person, in order to manage your money, depending on who you have, most likely is someone right out of college.
I mean, just to reiterate,
which is crazy.
The financial advising industry's job is to take your money and put it in their pocket. Mm-hmm. That is their job.
Right.
They dress it up by saying, hey, let us handle your money, we'll make you investments, blah, 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 blah. But their purpose is to take your money and put it in their pocket. I would love for anyone to debate me on that. I think any answer on that is a little
Well, it is. It's a
shit.
business.
Like, it's a bit like their business is to take your money.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Maybe take a little bit, maybe they offer something in return, but their end goal is to take your money. And if that's their business, fine, whatever. But you have to be aware of that. And so what Iron Bay just preaches is just like, be very aware if you're handling control, like custodian control of your money to someone else. It's better for you, if anything, just put your own money into some sort of like S&P 500 fund.
The same thing that they're doing, which
Yeah.
we can talk about that.
Yeah, to where you're self-managing, or even better, is just like people work 30, 40 years of their lives, and they spend decades trying to find the right school, and then decades trying to find the perfect job, but they won't take an hour out of their day to like read up on investing, or even like an hour a week to kind of figure out what works best for them.
Right.
Which is just insane.
Right.
Like if you did like an hour or two a week over like a 2 or 3 year period of time, you would know so much and be so confident to like definitely do better than what the professionals are doing, because you don't have these limitations. Like
Sure.
right now, IESC, without getting into the nitty gritty why, just take my word for it. It's a very small company on the scale of publicly traded companies.
Right.
And so I bet you not a lot of financial advisors would approve of it, because it's too little, it's too simple, it's too stupid, it's not fancy, it's not green energy, it's not AI, it's none of those fucking things.
Right.
But it's a company that just makes money. You see them in every town, and usually that guy that owns an HVAC company, or girl that owns a plumbing company, they're rich. Like they're financially wealthy because they just did something easy and needed.
Right.
So the point is just going back to your question, is you just need to control it, because no one knows what's best for you, and no one has your back better than you do.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
you have to manage it yourself.
Right.
No one is going to do it for you. You can't pass the buck along to someone else and hope that they have your best interest. You need to do it. You cannot pass this off.
Right.
It's just like you can't pass off your health. Like you got to go on your weekly walk. You have to eat healthy. You shouldn't smoke cigarettes all the time.
Right.
Same thing here. You can't pass this off. You can't pass off your financial wellness to someone else and hope for this. That's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And people doing that time and time again have screwed up their entire lives.
Yeah. Well, in everyone's defense,
Yeah.
because a lot of people do that. The majority of people watching this
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
You're scared, and I get it.
Yeah.
Because this stuff freaks me the crap out. I don't. It's
Yeah.
very. That's why I put it off for so long. Bryce went
Yeah.
on this journey alone because I was so intimidated. I was like, "There's no way." I could
Yeah,
ever learn
that might have
something
felt
like
very
that.
tacky. There wasn't a tacky at people who asking questions. It was more tacky about the financial advising community.
No, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's who I don't like.
Yeah, that's why you're passionate.
Sorry.
Because Bryce is
Yeah.
passionate because he doesn't want people to steal money from you.
Yeah, so just just take the time to do the work. Because I'll be honest, if you hire someone, what they're gonna do is they're gonna have the custodian of the account be some jerk off that hasn't even that just graduated.
An intern.
Yeah, and guess what? They just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like there's no, I can't say it any simpler. You do not matter to them.
Yeah.
Like I
Other than being
other than
money
paying
that
them
they're
fees.
managing. Yeah.
So just
Right.
recognize where you fall in that relationship and just really.
And
consider
it's
that.
always interesting to me that once you brought that up to me and I understood that, it seems so crazy that people don't feel that way. Like, wouldn't you be mad that you were paying someone to lose you money? Or just to do the bare minimum? It just seems weird. Yeah.
It's because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard work.
Yeah, sure.
And that's why you have to do it step by step and take it slow. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it being hard is why you also have to pick companies that you know.
Yeah.
Like if I were to read up on an AI company, I would just get bored out of my mind and I would fall asleep. But for some reason, you put a book in front of me about HVAC, I'm just like, cool, or
Yeah, sure.
I love real
Yeah.
estate books, or I think I read a book on Walmart, and that was a really good read. And so it's when you just find the I don't know,
Yeah.
name 2 things that you like.
Soccer.
Soccer, okay.
Yeah.
What else?
Shoes.
Shoes, okay. So if you found a company that was based on Manchester United's publicly traded in shoes, designer brand shoes, or Reebok or Nike, if you centered your research around those things, it might not lead to a good investment, but at least it's getting you into the door to try.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
maybe you find
Yeah.
something up that.
And
If you like shoes, you got Birkenstock and Crocs. If you like soccer, you got ESPN and all that
Right.
shit. It's making it a bit more tangible than if I were to give you a book to read about, I don't know, oil companies. That might bore the hell out of you.
I think, to wrap this up, that would be a good episode to do one time is I'm not even going to tell Bryce what company I'm going to bring to the table, and we'll just organically go through it. We'll share our screen on what we're looking at, and we'll make a determination on whether it is worthy of our time or not.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea. And again, I want to reiterate, like, I know what we went through here. I'm sure probably lost about half of you, but we're just trying to show like what all of this work and research and even just
will lead to
understanding your financials on a personal level to get money to invest. It all leads to this,
right?
And to like taking your harder money, finding an investment, and investing.
Yeah,
like that is the end result of all of this.
Yeah.
So just trying to kind of put like a North Star. Does that make sense? Yeah, trying to put like a
an
direction.
attainable, yeah.
Yeah, like what is the objective
a goal,
here?
Yeah.
What are we talking about? It's leading.
And it's leading to this conversation that we had today.
Yeah.
But we're gonna put out several more videos to go in depth on the smaller concepts. To break it down.
Each one of those,
you know?
like ES,
earnings
per share revenue,
market
all those
cap.
are,
There's probably 15 concepts that you mentioned today that we can make a separate video on, so that it's understandable.
Yeah, all that shit we just went over. That's like the culmination of like a 4-year accounting degree.
Yeah.
So just bear with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
don't feel nervous.
Yeah. We're trying to just make like tangible stuff. So.
And I asked Bryce what market cap was here today. Asked him what net income was.
Oh, we didn't even say the answer to that question.
Well, no, but it doesn't matter. I don't want to talk about it.
You're over it.
I will tell you guys, that's probably the 50th time I've asked Bryce what those things are because it just doesn't stick. And that's okay. Like, I am just you might just have to keep asking it. Don't be scared. You're like, oh, on the first try, I don't understand any of this, so I'm not able to. That's not true.
Yeah, hold on.
You know what I mean?
That's a really good point. Just like, this isn't like school. The point isn't
you don't have to memorize.
Yeah, it's not memorizing. It's just getting the concept.
Yeah.
Like, no,
knowing that you have to go look up market cap.
Like, I've got notes here. Like, I obviously didn't memorize what they were, but I know that when I read them and took notes on them, it was like, okay, these check the boxes. But no, I'm not gonna. It's not a quiz of memory. It's understanding, and then putting like your money to work there.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, I love that. Yeah.
I think that's a good way to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So. Okay, well, everyone, thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed this episode where we're showing you,
the potential
and what Iron Bay Research is here to do.
Yeah, and we're excited to do it some more. That was great.
Yeah, definitely. All right, everyone, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Thank you guys for watching. If you liked this and want more, subscribe or comment below. We'll see you here next time on Iron Bay Research. Bryce and Kara signing out.